Okay, good evening, everybody. Today we're on the RGT OTR e-racing course. Spanish for improvers. It's for people with 4 watt kilo FTP or less, and it's usually pretty well attended. I'd expect there to be about 50 riders taking part by the time the race actually gets underway. And what I'm doing today is I'm covering the race. I actually have to be in the race to cover it in spectate mode, but I won't be riding. I'll just be pottering around at the back, using spectate mode to show people, first of all, how it works, and secondly, to cover the race myself. I'm very nervous about this because I've not even had a chance to look at the controls. So this is my first look at it, and I hope I get it right. You just have to excuse any problems, but should be fun. I'm looking forward to it because when I get used to, excuse me, when I get used to using it, then I can use it not only in my own races, but the events and races that I'm asked to cover for other teams. And the idea of my YouTube channel is it's to promote not only Team 3R, my WBR team, but also to promote RGT cycling, where I've moved across to from Swift. So I lead group rides on Tuesday evenings every week at 1930 GMT, 2030 CET, and on Thursdays at the same time. And very soon we're going to be putting in a weekend ride, which will be more of an endurance-based ride. The midweek ones are generally about an hour. Tuesdays are usually slightly easier than the Thursdays in terms of the leader pace. So Tuesdays you can expect 2 watt kilo, and on Thursday we like to push it up a bit, so nearer to 3 watt kilo. But the good thing about all the group rides that I organise is I'm throwing in bots or pace partners, and I'm programming those bots to race anything from 1.5 watt kilo all the way up to 4.5. So just about anybody coming along to the group rides can find a pace if they don't want to stop with a leader. They're very social in nature, and that's one of the reasons why I'm involved in the racing series, because as well as taking the leisure side of it, I really do like to be competitive myself. And although I'm only in the 3.2 watt kilo below category, I really do enjoy the racing, and I've gone from finishing almost at the back to yesterday finishing in 10th place. So that's a pretty dramatic improvement given the injuries I sustained and recovered from. Now I'll have to familiarise myself with some of the riders in this race. Most of them I don't know, and I don't know the names. So again, make apologies for mispronunciations. I'll try and get it right. But I do know the favourites and the people that are going to be up at the front. And that's down to watching Mike Lister's videos. And he covered this race a couple of weeks ago. I followed that this afternoon just to have a look to see how he handled the camera angles and the race coverage. I don't think I'll do anything like as good a job as Mike has done, because he's been using it a little while now. He's been one of the beta testers. But I'll give it a good shot, and we'll see what the coverage is like. The nice thing about, if I can get it to work, is that you can swap around rider views and you can follow different riders. So in reality, I should be able to change rider views and show the race from all points of view, not just the front of the race, but the middle and the back, and show the groups splintering, and we'll see what we can come up with. But I also have to jump on the bike and do a bit of cycling myself, because if I don't, after 30 minutes, I would be kicked out of the event. So I have to do a little bit of cycling just to keep myself in the race. And I've just noticed there's another Team 3R jersey on the third row. Let's see if we can find out who it is. No, I can't see who it is. Should be in this next slide. No, we'll probably have to wait until they get underway to. What's happening is using the keyboard shortcuts, the page up and page down, it's supposed to move you a rider at a time, but it's not doing that at the moment. I'm hoping by the time we get into the race itself that it will actually work and do it one rider at a time. But you can see I'm pressing it only the once, and it's actually jumping around quite a few riders. So I don't think that's the way it's supposed to work, but maybe the race has to be underway, and we're going to be underway very soon. So let's get back up and we'll follow Mr. Keogh off the start line and see how he does. Maybe. Mr. Greenhow. I know he's going to be one of the front contenders, so if we stick with him initially, when the race sets off, and see how it goes. Okay. Okay, start your engines. Okay, so as you can see, flying start, and I knew Mr. Greenhow would be up the front with James Ogilvy, but it should settle down. I imagine a group will form at the front, so I'll stay on this view just for the time being. Okay, that should be enough to keep me in the race for 30 minutes. So if I keep an eye on the clock, and now I'll follow the race. So as you can see, this is the front group going up the road. Let's have a look and see what's happening behind them. Okay, so just one lone chaser at the moment, and then another small group behind them. There we go. And who else have we got? Okay. So we've got Mr. Greenhow up in the front. For some reason the rider positions don't seem to be changing on screen. I think there's a bug. I'll have to ask Mike what's going on here, but anyway, I'm able to follow. And there I am right at the back. Mr. Porto Now we've got 28 riders on the course, and these are the two back markers. Don't count me, I'm number 28. So these are the two back markers, J2C and Porter, and let's move forward and see what the rest of the group are doing. And these are small group forming at the back. My guess is that if I was taking part in this race, this would be exactly where I would be. Pulling 2.3 watt kilos. Oh, and the guy in the Team 3R kit is Mr. Flugie. So thank you for promoting the kit. Now let's catch up and see what's happening further up the road. The next group on the road, you can see we've got S. Baker. And then we've got a small group here of 5 riders. With Vanbers in it and Hayes. And let's see who's in the chasing group. This is the chasing group on the road now. So you've got Anders and Barber leading it out. But let's get back up to the front. And here you've got James leading the group. At least I think this is the lead group, is it? Yep, this is the lead group with James, Shapers and Broders. These are all the main contenders. I'd expect to see these riders stay together at least until we get to the first big climb, which is just before the halfway point. You can see the course profile at the bottom of the screen. That tells you when the lumps are arriving, and expect the race to really start to thin out once they start to go up these climbs. I'm quite surprised I can't see Nate Fulcher in this week's race, which I find rather surprising. He was the winner 2 weeks back. Let's zoom out a bit and see if we can see what's happening on the road. Go. As I say, I'm still getting used to the camera angles and things, so you'll have to excuse my fumbling about. But at least we are able to follow the race nicely. And again, let's go back and have a look and see what's happening in the group behind. Now this Vanbers is only 27 meters off the front group, so he's trying to close across. You can see the red numbers, so he's working really hard to try and close the gap. But I know from my own personal experience, all right, I'm not racing at this level, but at the level I race across, closing a gap of 27 meters as a solo rider is not going to happen. He needs the help, and here comes his help. So a small group like this will close the gap, I would have thought, if they work together. So we should see the numbers coming down. But as I say, for some reason the list isn't updating. It's not updating with. We're having to watch it live on the road because you can see that the numbers aren't changing in the rider list, and I don't know what to do about that. Whether I can flick it on and flick it off. Let's give that a try. I'll switch back to the lead group so you can see what's happening at the front, and we'll see if we can switch on and off the view and get it back. Here we go. Okay, that's the riders list turned off. Now let's bring it back. And now it's working. I'm glad that worked because it's a bit difficult to sort of give you a commentary on where the groups are. In fact, I said 27 metres, but in fact, the next group behind are as much as 180 metres. So it's going to be very, very difficult for them to close a gap like that. And we'll just work his way through the group and get to the one behind. Here we go. Now these riders are 170 metres behind. These are second group on the road, 170 metres behind the main group. So my guess is these guys are racing for their own placings. They're not going to close the gap on the leaders. I think I can say that in all certainty. And then let's have a look and see the next group on the road are way behind this group. So we've got, here we go. We've got three distinct groups up the front with a fair bit of distance spacing them out. These guys are 300 metres behind the second group on the road. So again, expect these probably to be joined by a few more riders, maybe a bit later in the race. And they'll be fighting it out for the middle of the pack placings. Back to the front. And if you look at the watt kilos that they're putting out, they're not really pushing it. Nice low numbers, 3.2. You know, for riders of this caliber, that's not really pushing it. It's not until they get to the hills where they'll be saving the strength, and I imagine a couple of the riders. Certainly, I'd expect Greenhog to try and make a break on the hills. Maybe James himself might even have a go. Now let's practice changing camera views. So bear with me. As I say, this is all new to me. I'm learning as I go on. So let's see what it looks like in drone view. Here we go. I'll call out the different views so that you can get a feeling for, you know, which you like best. I personally, I love this view. When I'm covering events, I tend to use drone view more than any other. I think it gives the best overall view, but with the new spectate mode and being able to zoom in, zoom out, that's pretty cool as well. Here you've got race mode. So this is race view, which is nice, but I find it there you go. For this reason, I'm not a big fan of race view. I find it very confusing. I think anybody would find it almost impossible to follow a race using race view. I just can't see, you know, it's showing Mr. Anders working his butt off at the back. But apart from that, then you've got auto switch. Now auto switch is quite good, and I use this quite a lot. Auto switch will switch about views, as the name suggests. And it's usually quite good. It usually gets a nice, there you go, nice side on views, shows the group moving through, and then you get drone view. It just mixes all the different views up. It's pretty good. Then you got third person. So Anders has worked his way to the front. So third person, as you can see there. And then you got first person. And this is Mr. Anders looking ahead. So he's watching all the riders in front of him and then coming through himself. But as I say, drone Drone is my. Oh, there's one more to show you. So Mr. Anders has just gone to the front and he wants to see who's behind him. So click the look behind, look. And that's an excellent feature for if you are planning on making a break and you just want to quickly, I made a break in yesterday's ride up one of the hills, and we did actually manage to split the group. We dropped two riders, and I used that function just to quickly look behind and see what was happening. Okay, but let's be fair to the group and have a look and see what's happening further down the ride. Come on, switch. It's very slow to be. Yeah, come on, come on. Okay, okay. You can see I'm having real difficulty. It's very buggy. Um, it's not changing riders for me. Okay, am I? Let's have a look. There we go. That's why I'm not in rider view. So you can see I have to learn how it all fits together. How many have we got in the front group now? We've got 8 in the front group. Then we've got Mr. Barber. So let's see if we can find Mr. Barber. He's currently trying to close the gap on the front group. And he's pushing out some red numbers to do so. This is an awful position to be in, and I feel for Mr. Barber because I've been there. Trying to close that 20 meters, it looks so doable. But look at the numbers that the group in front are putting out. 6.1, 5.6. So poor Mr. Barber, who himself is pushing big numbers, is just not going to close the gap. And it's quickly, because of the hill, it's quickly opened up to 70 meters. And the poor guy is just left. Yeah, okay. Now, there is an opportunity. He mustn't give up because there is an opportunity for him to close the gap once we get to the next hill. Not on the leaders. The leaders will just pull away even further. But he may well be able to close the gap if he's a climber when they reach the bottom of the upcoming climb, which is coming in a few meters. But then behind Mr. Barber, it's quite a gap to the next rider. Um, and he's again he's in no man's land. So you've got Barber in no man's land. You've got WO in no man's land, and then you have a small group behind. With Duluck, Craig, and Hayes, and who else is in there? Vanbers. But as I said earlier, it's not being cruel when I say these guys are just fighting for like the top 10 places. Sorry, not 10, outside the top 10 places. And they've just caught Mr. O. He needs to put in a bit of an effort to get back on them. Otherwise, he's going to lose them. Yeah, it's so difficult when a group comes past you. If you're not, what you should be doing is you should be watching the rider list and looking at the figures, looking at the meters. And as they're closing on you, you need to start putting on the power. Because if you don't, then that happens. There's a 24-meter gap now, and he's putting out big numbers to try and close it. Will he close it? I don't know. It's gone out to 40 meters, so no, he's not going to close the gap. He's going to be left in no man's land. And when you're left in no man's land, you've got two choices. You can sit up slightly and wait for the next group on the road, or you can just keep plugging away and hope that a few more will drop back and you can form a small group. In WO's position, he's 70 odd meters away from the guys in front, so he's not going to close that gap in any time soon. And the next group are a further 200 and odd meters behind that. Does he wait for them? I would say no. I would say just keep plugging away on your own, putting out decent numbers, which is what he's doing. All credit to the lad. He's doing a good job here. But it's heartbreaking when you're there and there's nobody in front to catch because they're too far in front, and it doesn't make sense to wait for the people behind because they're too far behind. And that's why I call it no man's land. It's a desolate place to be. In the early races, that's where I was all the time because I didn't have the strength to close gaps. I was still finding my climbing legs. I broke my hip a year last September and severely damaged my knee. I had real problems in my knee. I had to have an operation, had to get movement in it. And even now, I only have about 100 degrees of movement in the left knee, which causes severe pain when I'm putting in high revs. I can manage if I'm putting in low revs, which is why I push big gears all the time. I climb hills like the Galley Bear in the big ring because it's a lot easier than trying to spin in the little ring. Anyway, but it's still early days for me pushing back, but I find my climbing legs are coming now, and I'm able to stay with riders of similar ability to me on the climbs. Where they leave me for dead, and this has happened in the last two races, is in the final kilometers. I just have nothing left. I've usually worked so hard on the small hills and have nothing left for the remaining kilometers. So I've got to try and sort out a strategy to make that more, because it's a bit annoying when you stay with the group, 6 riders group, all the way to 1 or 2 kilometers from the end, and then they just drop you like a lead stone. So I need to work on some tactics to stop that happening. But let's get back to the race. Let's see what's happening up the front. So, who's Mr. Miles? There we go. Looks like Mr. Miles is. Who have we got? Let's see if we can move up. Anders. So this is the leading group now. Is this all of them, or have we got Shapers? Shapers is leading it out. So the lead group is now whittled down to 4 riders, and the winner's going to come from these 4, obviously. I'll just have a quick look and see what happened to the group behind. So James, Anders and Feet are the chasing group, and they're currently 200 meters behind. So unlikely they'll close the gap. And I think we have to return to our front leaders, and the winner's going to come from one of these 4. Looking at the numbers, my money is on Greenhaug from these 4, with Shape as a close second. We'll see what happens. Shapers is a very canny rider. I've watched a few of his races, and he's pretty canny. So we'll see what happens with the front of the group. I'm going to, just while they're going to be going on this downhill, I'm going to switch back, and we're going to have a look at the guys behind. Now they're just coming over the top of the climb. Let's have a look at the ones behind them. Mr. Miles, absolutely in no man's land. So he was obviously dropped from James Ogilvy's group. And there he is chugging away on his own. You have to respect these riders that are on their own, out in nowhere, and still able to summon the courage to put out red numbers. I find that pretty amazing. Let's have a look who's next on the road. So then we've got the small group with Van Beers, Craig and Hayes. And I don't know who the other rider is because he hasn't got... Oh, I do. Look. Oh, there's Look. Who's the other rider without a ticket on his... Barber. Okay, so you got Barber in this group. Look trying to make a break for it. And it looks like Mr. Miles has sort of like allowed them, because he was a good 90, 100 meters in front. And my guess is he's probably eased up to let them close so that he can work with them. Because there's absolutely no sense in working in the middle of a group, tiring yourself out, and then they're just going to come past you. So ease up a little bit, allow the group to catch. Now at this point, yeah, he needs to be getting on the wheel of the rider that's just taken him. And I'd just sit there. I wouldn't go back to the front. I'd just sit there. But I've been told off for wheel sucking quite a few times, but that's my strategy until I get my full strength back. I'll wheel suck as much as I have to. And that's tactics, that's race tactics. You know, some people might say, well, it's not right that you don't do your pulls, but, you know, it's been proved in the races. If you go back and watch some of the videos, the beginners races videos that I've recorded, they're still on my channel. Go back and have a look at them and you will see the majority of the races where I sit in and do very little work on the front, I still get dropped at the end by the stronger riders, and I know the much stronger riders. So where's the sense in tiring myself out and not getting to the end with the group? There's no sense in it at all. So, you know, I just sit in the group, do as little work as possible, because I'm not yet strong enough to sprint at the end. Against the big boys, I can sprint, you know, against the odd one or two riders, but and while we're on the stream, let's give a big shout out to OTR, because they've put on this race series. They run this one on a Sunday, Spanish for improvers, and this is capped at 4 watt kilos. So FTP of 4 watt kilos or less. Let's go back to the front as well. Let's get back up the front and see what's happening at the front. Yeah, this is capped at 4 watt kilos, so these riders all have to come in below 4 watt kilos or they get disqualified, which is pretty well kept on top of by James and his team. But they also run the Saturday Flemish for beginners, which is the one I'm taking part in. And I think both of them, I mean, I'd love to ride in this, but there's no point at the moment until I'm improving. But both races are superb races, usually very good courses. I mean, this course would absolutely suit me. So there's a shout out to you, James, if you're listening later and you're watching the video. Get this course on the Flemish for beginners, okay? Because I would absolutely love this course. It's got a nice big hill and a couple of other smaller ones where you can snap a few legs. But yes, shout out to OTR e-racing, because this series is fantastic. They monitor it very well in terms of the one I take part in, the Flemish for beginners, is 3.2. And I think it's 3.25. If you go over 3.25, like there was a guy yesterday that was 3.27, and it might sound harsh, but he was disqualified, and rightfully so. You know, if it's 3.2, it's 3.2. Coming in at 3.27, you're over. full stop. And my guess is that a lot of the guys that, over can actually do a lot more than what they're coming in at. They're not at the limit. Whereas, you watch the true races, the true 3.2s, people like Wilson, Martin Wilson, myself, to name a couple, uh, and my teammate Mr. Luke, we're true 3.2 riders. We're coming in at that. And by the end of the race, absolutely empty. I mean, I know yesterday Luke was he said he was absolutely shattered. I watched him at the end and he just, yeah. So OTR keep a nice tight lid on it. They discourage people entering that are way over. They disqualify anybody that is. And they're trying to keep the racing fair. But for me, the best part about it is the way they're choosing the courses at the moment. Instead of sticking with one course and sort of like doing it throughout the series, they're switching and changing around. And they're making it fair for all types of riders, for your flat riders, for your hilly riders, which is good. It's good to know that you're in with a shout. I mean, I loved yesterday's course. Could have had a bigger hill in it, but it was a lovely course in that it did what I wanted it to do, which was allow me to be strong on the hills. Now then, they're going to come into let's just take a quick look what's happening behind as this group come into the front, because I want to follow this to the end now. So we'll have a look. James and Fimpt have broken free of the group behind. So they've left Anders on the road. He's 90 odd meters behind them. And then the following chasing group, they're not going to get back on either. So let's have a look further back. Who else have we got? Mr. Miles, still working his way in no man's land. I thought, did he get dropped? Did he get caught and dropped? I think he did. Must have done. Yeah, he got caught and dropped. Wow. Okay, there's Mr. Sanderson, another lone rider in no man's land. Now Mr. Wilson, he's actually entered this race. Now, if I was Amzika, hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, Mr. Canadian, I would actually wait for Martin and go to the finish with Martin rather than riding alone. But perhaps he feels he can maintain the 40 odd meters all the way to the finish. Tough ask. Then you've got Martin Wilson. Took part in yesterday's race, so to see him racing today, and he is catching. See him racing today, I'm surprised, but good on you, lad. What's happened? Oh, Jesus. It's kicked me out. Oh, hang on, guys. I'll see if I can get back in. Okay, it looks like I've screwed up. It looks like I've severely screwed up. Damn. Damn. Can I get back in? Can you let me come back in? Come on, let me back in. Come on, let me back in. I'm sorry about this, folks. I'm getting so carried away, completely forgot that what you have to do when in spectate mode is you have to pedal. If you don't pedal, then that's what happens. You get kicked out. Now I don't know if it's going to let me back in. I'm going to try. Oh, oh, come on, come on. Okay, let's close the app down and see and open it up again. Oh, that is so annoying. And I've let down all my followers. I'm so sorry. Yeah, well, the thing is, it's a learning curve. Okay, it's a learning curve, and I'm still learning. I'm still, yeah. Are we there? Are we there? OTR Spanish for Improvers in progress. Come on, let me join. Now, you can no longer join. No. Okay. I'm sorry, folks. I really do apologise. I'm going to have to join the Facebook group, and no doubt James and his colleagues will post the results. I can only apologise. It's a learning curve. I've made a mistake and I just do my best. That's all I can do. So I'm going to close it down. Anybody watching the stream, please leave a comment. You know, you can call me a Wally, whatever you want. Leave a comment on the Facebook page. I'd appreciate if you'd like and subscribe. It always helps the channel because I'm going to be covering a lot more events, and hopefully I won't make